What if selling your soul isn't actually a sin, but rather an effective strategy for winning at the game of life? We're all familiar with the cultural myth, that theme that permeates popular media across movies, TV series, books, and even music, of the character who goes down to the crossroads to sell his soul in return for fame, success, wealth, riches, power. It's a very common narrative and one that has been around a long time and surely isn't going away anytime soon. But what if this whole story and the lesson behind it is presented incorrectly? What if the true lesson in this is actually quite the opposite of what we've been told? What if it's not really about losing your soul, but rather reclaiming it? The right hand path religious systems, the religious establishment, takes it upon themselves to claim ownership of your soul. However, in the left hand path, and this is a left hand path video, this path, those of us who walk it ask, why not take it back? This video is going to talk about selling your soul as a means of gaining sovereignty, as an act of rebellion that leads to power. And it is about confronting the fear and the punishment that has been tied to this idea of selling your soul and rejecting that, rebelling against it. Of course, when one thinks of the archetypal story of the soul seller, Faust comes to mind. The classic moral here is that you do not bargain with demons. So in this story, Faust seeks knowledge, experience, and freedom. However, his downfall is not doing the deal itself, but rather ignorance of the rules of the deal. So to contrast this, left-hand path magicians, they don't beg, they negotiate. They declare their power, their dominion, and their sovereignty. And this act of soul selling is a test of that sovereignty. We're talking about black magic. Will you follow the old divine script, or will you rewrite your own, forge your own path? Hello, brothers and sisters of the left-hand path. Welcome back to Pluto Sophia. Today is April 10th, 2025. It is Thursday. I am your host and the founder and Inferno Hierophant of Pluto Sophia, Dr. Murphy. Thank you for joining me here today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you would like to support us, please give us a like, subscribe, and let's start some engaging conversations in the comment section. The only thing I ask is that you bring your good manners and be polite and civil. Okay, so let us continue with our story for today. Obviously, like a lot of this stuff, it's symbolism, it's metaphor, it's allegory, and it's the same thing with this theme of selling your soul. And again, it's not about giving it away, it's about reclaiming it and owning it, right? We're talking about selling your soul from the perspective of the left-hand path. So the left-hand path is contrarian. It is quite juxtapositioned to what the right-hand path is doing, right? The left-hand path is about destroying the order of the right-hand path, stepping into the darkness, into the abyss, into the chaos, and then rebuilding a new order that is quite different, even quite the opposite of that of the right-hand path. So when we're talking about selling your soul within the left-hand path, of course, it has to do with sovereignty and an act that is going to lead ultimately to apotheosis and true power for the magician. within the left-hand path, your soul is, we can just think of it as a symbol, if you will, for your essence, your will, your fire. And this sail is liberation from outside ownership. It's about transfer of ownership from the religious establishment, from authorities, whoever is claiming ownership of this soul or these souls. Anyways, the transfer of power to the individual, to the self. The tools you need for this are the pact, a ritual, and inner declaration. And of course, the purpose, as I have mentioned, is apotheosis, empowerment, domination of your reality, not damnation. Right? Within the right-hand path, selling your soul, they teach us is about damnation. In the left-hand path, it is about liberation, domination of your reality. And within the left-hand path, this is all about what black magic and alchemy is, and it is certainly this way within Pluto Sophia. As an analogy, let's think of the soul as a domain name. However, this domain name, instead of being registered by you, it was registered by a third party, and it was done so without your consent. The terms of service of this domain are the religious and moral conditioning that come from the right-hand path. Now, what Lucifer teaches here, or what any of the demons of the left-hand path of hell are teaching us to do, is to transfer that domain to ourselves so that you become the owner of the domain and you become the site builder and not just a default template for some outside authority to manipulate and use. This is about rewriting the code of your soul to own the source code. So to expand upon this, we can think of soul selling as a kind of spiritual jailbreak. It is not surrender, rather it is reprogramming. In demonology, a pact is not equivalent with servitude. A pact is about creating an alliance, a co-creation, something based upon mutual respect between the magician and the demon or whoever this pact is being made with. The specifics of the soul-selling ritual are not all that important, as all of this is really just symbolism. All of it, these are all just various tools for unlocking different aspects and powers of our own self. So it's really just, taking the dark mystical approach, just using what works. Do you need to burn the contract? If that works for you, then do it. If not, it is not necessary. Do you need to sign in blood or utilize sigils? Again, this just depends on the individual and what works for them in unlocking their own power. But it is good to assert your sovereignty and domination, declare ownership aloud, have and state your purpose, values, and vision. And the real pact is all just about self-deification. Reclaiming power activates something most never access, or even try to, or are even aware of. So of course questions come up. Okay, so Dr. Murphy, you mentioned this is like symbolism. I heard the word allegory a lot, and da-da-da-da-da. So is this just edgy LARPing, right? Is this just psychodrama, as Anton LaVey would talk about in the Church of Satan? Well, again, it comes back to dark mysticism. And this is kind of, my background, mystical research and metaphysics. It's, it doesn't matter. I think of magic as a tool, alchemy as a tool. Demonology, vampirism, all of these things are just tools. And as a mystic, I'm not concerned about necessarily how something works or why it works. All I care about is just that it works. So if you go through with this ritual of selling your soul to the devil, is it LARPing? Is it symbolic? Is it real? Is it this? Is it that? I really don't care. I just care about whether it works, whether it has an effect. And when you start to get caught up in these smaller to me are smaller details, does it work? How does it work? Why does it work? That's when you lose your grip upon the power that things like magic and alchemy bring. Sure, even if it is just theater or psychodrama, this has power too, as it is a kind of code for the psyche. But when you come at it from this perspective, it really helps you to focus upon the important things and be aware that when you're performing these rituals within demonolatry, which I believe this falls into, that category of, it's not about impressing the demons or satisfying them, or getting so paranoid about, did I do this perfectly, or if I make a sigil, should I enclose it in a circle or not, or and then you start to become paranoid and you lose control over the power dynamics of the metaphysical system. This is not about impressing or satisfying a demon or demons. It's about transforming yourself. Remember, we're in the left-hand path now. It's okay to be selfish. We're doing this for our own power. This is what I mean. Like when I say you must assert your own sovereignty. You must dominate. It's about manipulating your own reality. And if you find yourself continually worrying about making mistakes or inadvertently insulting someone or something else, this to me is just proof that you don't have power over what you're doing. The whole point of this is not literalism. It is about liberation through symbolism. Demons are mirrors of our inner fire. The pact is with yourself. Through them, certainly, in demonolatry, we're working through demons, but the pact is actually with ourselves. The devil, in this sense, is a mirror of ourselves. In selling your soul to your devil, that is reflecting back to you. You're selling it back to yourself. You're reclaiming your power. And I mean, just in demonolatry and the demonic hierarchies, the infernal royalty of hell, look at the deities that you're working with. Lucifer is associated with truth and knowledge and wisdom and freedom and liberation. Right? King Belial is connected with unshakable independence, being totally liberated, incapable of being made a slave, fierce, complete, utter independence and sovereignty. Lilith, unapologetic desire, having no guilt, no shame. Right? These are the forces we're working with in the left-hand path. They are all empowering. Of course, they whine and moan and gripe and complain in the right-hand path about the left-hand path being selfish and the demons being evil. But that's why no one in the right-hand path gains any power. Of course, apotheosis, the philosopher's stone, alchemy, magic, these things, let's be honest, they're all selfish. The soul pact is symbolic alchemy. You're calling yourself into being. You're transforming yourself. So let's look at a very simple and practical way that we can apply this. You create two letters. One is from your old self that is conditioned, obedient, programmed, not totally free, right? And the second letter is from your awakened self. This is the pact that you make with the devil or demon or whatever deity that you chose to make it with. Now, that first letter from the old self, you burn it. The second letter you read aloud. in your phrasing that is part of your ritual. Right? This is something that you must come up with, something that works for you, but it should include in part something speaking along the lines of how this pact is not with that particular deity that you're working with, but is with the magician themselves. It is only that the pact is working through that deity, but it is a pact, right? You are making this pact with yourself. So the second letter you will hold on to, and you will keep it in a place that is sacred for you. It is not a debt. Again, stop thinking right-hand path here. This is not a debt, but it is a receipt of your sovereignty, because with this pact you have declared your sovereignty. Actually, you've reclaimed it. You've always had your sovereignty. It's just that you've been tricked into submitting to these third-party outside sources, these establishment religions. And it's not just about religion, right? This symbolism extends beyond the religious and spiritual stuff. It's about sovereignty in general, to some outside authority figure who essentially has tricked you and kept you ignorant about your own true power. So this is a receipt of reclaiming your sovereignty. So speaking of psychodrama and the such, we may even play a little ritual theater and enter the soul market through guided visualization. The soul market being a crowded marketplace with signs and forgotten languages and booths selling all kinds of various things. But instead of selling like physical objects and items or clothing and jewelry and things like this and food, these booths are selling things like obedience, salvation, sainthood, and each has a price. But the price is not in money. The price is asking of your free will, or your silence, or your conformity, or your submission. But then we pull out demonolatry, and we invoke our chosen demon. And that demon or demoness enters, and this deity hands you a blank scroll and a black quill. And you're not writing what you owe, you're writing what you are, because you are asserting your domination here. And then you sign your name, and the scroll vanishes. And for the first time, you feel your soul just kind of fit into place, snap into place. The devil whispers into your ear that you were not born in chains. You were taught to wear them like jewelry. They, with their lies, teach that the devil takes your soul. However, we know in the left-hand path that the devil is just holding up the mirror. And in holding up that mirror, we look into it, and then we can remember. And we come to realize that the throne was always ours. It's just that we forgot. That knowledge was kept from us. That's why this was called forbidden knowledge in the celestial realm, in the celestial order within heaven. And why those fallen angels became demons and descended from heaven to forge a new path, the left-hand path, and to create hell. It was to destroy this old corrupt order and to establish a new one. They went into the darkness to create a new light, a light of which they are the sovereign master. And this is exactly what the black magician and black alchemist does, the demonolator, the vampire. This is exactly what they do. And in Pluto Sophia, this is precisely what we do in traveling the left-hand path, stepping off of the ledge into the abyss, into the darkness, navigating the chaos to create our own light there. Because when you do that, if you're successful, now you have light again, but the big difference is that you are the sovereign master. You're not selling your soul, you are reclaiming it. And the devil is just notarizing the paperwork. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed this fun little video. If you would like to learn more about us and would also like to support us, or if you're interested in any of the services that we provide, you can learn all about that stuff by visiting us on the web at plutosophia.com. We are also on X, still stuck at 1 follower. So who's going to be number 2? Okay, I will be very excited when we have our second follower on X, but that's okay. We're still growing, step by step. So thank you so much for joining me here today, and we are almost to the weekend, so hang in there, everybody. Have an infernally blessed day. Take care, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.